Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the latest episode of NOS4A2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we've got the Hourglass man, which we now know his name is John. We got him using his hourglass on one of the doctors, trying to kill Vic, and obviously Linda's not too happy about that. Well, because for one, luckily for Vic, Maggie was there. She saw everything going down, so she pulled the IV out of her arm and everything before after the doctor injected whatever he did. She chased after him, but sadly he ended up killing himself. And obviously, but Linda's pissed at the FBI because it's like, you've kind of failed at every point. Like, the fact of the matter is, my grandson's been taken, my daughter's almost been killed again. So it's like this doctor just happened to slip by and everything. So I just thought that was kind of like a fascinating situation. And obviously you have Vic telling her mom, it's like, I can find him, I got this gift and everything. And her mom is just like, okay, you sound crazy. Basically, you sit down, or I put you on a psych hold. And it's like, obviously, for Vic, it makes her probably have to, she sits back down because she literally went through that last season. Well, 8 years ago. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, her dad kind of put her in that position, so she knows, like, yeah, if I'm not about to go through all that again, so I'm just gonna. And for one, it sucks because you're like, Linda, don't, but it doesn't mean you're like, Linda's just doing what she thinks is right, because it's like, for her, I mean, to be fair, it's like, for her it sounds crazy. You're in shock. You've lost your child's been taken from you. Like, you're not in the best state of mind. So she's just trying to do what she can because she thinks her daughter's kind of losing it. And then, like, she goes to check on Chris later on. I thought this was interesting. And she's like, yeah, our daughter, I think she's saying she can find Wayne. It's like, I think our daughter does have a gift. She's like, oh, come on. He's like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, basically after what, he's like, I've seen something I can't explain. Like, you should have seen her. He was like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, I saw our grandson get taken by a, dead man, the car and everything, and it's just like, even Chris is having to kind of start, notice. And but for her, it's like, if our daughter is, you're saying that magic exists. If our daughter was all like, she's like, I've been wiping her nose since she was a kid. Like, why wouldn't? What kind of mother wouldn't notice that? And he was like, the kind of mom that's busy hiding her bruises and working to pay the bills, who's got a philanderous drunk of a husband. So basically saying, like, you had your own stuff to deal with, so it's like you were so busy kind of doing with that, you didn't look up to see, like, what was kind of happening. I mean, to be fair, all this didn't really pop up until 8 years ago for her, but so it's a situation of him being like, we need to believe in her because she might be the only one that can. And I thought it was kind of a sweet moment between, Vic and Lou. And it turns out, like, Lou had to, like, have a stent put in his heart because of everything. And it's like, she didn't want him to kind of get stressed out, which I think that's going to be probably an element over the course of the season too. Like, the fact is they brought it up probably also means, like, it's like Lou's going to have to be careful, not getting too, like, stressed out or whatever. And I think, obviously the current circumstances are going to be extremely stressful, but obviously for her, it's like, her bike, is messed up and everything, but Lou was like, no, whatever the case may be, like, you don't have to do this alone. You're not going to find Wayne, we will. It's like, Han and Leia, but she was like, yeah, but I'm sure Han and Leia didn't have a stent in their heart and a messed up back, or messed up spine or whatever. And so, for him, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, but, like, he's like, I got a mechanic, or, like, the Millennium Falcon situation is like, I don't think that ever got hit by a truck and broke into a million pieces. But he's like, yeah, but I'm a better mechanic than Han Solo. So, Luke Harmony is a better mechanic than Han Solo. She's like, did you just refer to yourself in a third person? And did you just rank yourself higher than Han Solo? He's like, yeah. And he was like, no. It was just kind of an adorable moment, but it's like, all right, we're in this together. Let's do this. I thought that was pretty neat. It's also interesting, too, because Maggie's the one that kind of figured everything out, because it's like, all right, the FBI agents plus the doctor now, okay, it's starting to make sense that there's someone else involved in this. It basically got another strong creative involved. Sadly, Tabitha's got to deal with this whole situation of, hey, I did something questionable. Like, I didn't wait for backup. Bing ended up getting away. Like, the fact of the matter is, because now her boss, like, there's a lot of questions like, well, why didn't you wait? It's like, well, because Tabitha knows that the clock was ticking down, because she knows a side of this thing that no one else knows. She can't really explain to other people, oh, there's a whole supernatural side of this thing. It's like, she's going to look crazy and probably, it's not going to help her case. It's going to actually hurt it a lot. So, so she's in a situation of like, because for her, it's like, she's like, what I did was stupid. The fact of the matter is, I could have been killed. And she blames herself because she's like, because of all that, now Wayne ended up getting taken, Vic, her child is missing, and Tabitha kind of personally feels it's her fault because Manx was there and so was Bing, and they got away, So, I mean, fortunately, she didn't, because it could have ended going severely sideways. Like, they could have killed her, but luckily they didn't. But, sadly, at the end of it all, like, she gives her report, but her boss still kind of lets her go, because it's like, sometimes the FBI gets a little too involved in cases, especially in this one, because it's like, the person in question, Vic, is the friend of your girlfriend, plus she's got all these, like the whole, everything that she's done, even the whole burning down her house with her kid inside. Like, it's like, they're looking at it from the perspective, like, yeah, so, kidnapping cases like this is usually a little close to home, suggesting it might be her. But Tabitha's like, no, it's super not Vic. The fact of the matter is, she has her issues, but she went through something traumatic. But he's trying to say, like, well, yeah, like you said, she went through something traumatic. The fact of the matter is, Tabitha's kind of away from the, like, kind of having to turn in her badge and her gun, and she has to be away from the case now. Especially because obviously this is something she's been working towards for a long time, and, to kind of have it, there in her grasp and now finally taken away from her, it sucks, especially because you were trying to do the right thing and it just kind of flew up in your face. So many other interesting things. For one, there's that whole thing with Charlie and Wayne. I thought was kind of interesting because, like, you could tell, like, I think it's the situation of the Wraith as well as Charlie in general is able to kind of, like, make you kind of, I mean, to be fair though, I guess the longer you're inside the Wraith, the more like that who you were in the past is kind of like fading away. So in his case, it's like he's kind of buying into what Charlie said, even though his mom went through hell and back, he saw it himself, but I think it's just he started doubting her. It's like he tries calling her, but she doesn't answer. So it's just kind of like, I think it's like, it's not a thing of like, to be fair, he's a kid and he's so impressionable, and I think like the Wraith kind of plays and manipulates it. I think Charlie plays and manipulates at that. So it's like, oh, your mom doesn't care, but it's like Christmas land and everything. And then Craig shows up. I was like, what the hell is that? And now this is the second time we've seen this now, because Millie's mom in Christmas land and now Craig inside the Wraith. So I'm like, could it be because these are people who died inside of the Wraith? Like, because like maybe because like Millie's mom's situation was different, because it was like maybe it's like her like love for her daughter, wanting to protect her, is so strong that it's overpowering. Like maybe if you die inside the Wraith, your spirit is there, especially if you have an unfinished business. And for Craig, it's like, my son is in here. Like, the fact of the matter is, I gotta talk to. Like, that's why I think it's interesting, because obviously like it doesn't appear to Charlie, because Charlie looks in the rearview mirror. He can't see it. Only Wayne can, which makes me wonder, when it comes down to it, like in Christmas Land, would Millie be the only one that can see her mom? Like, would Charlie not be able to see her? And that's just like, all right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, then it's gonna get your mind running. Like, why is this a thing? Like, why is this happening? And I was like, it has to, like, maybe it is kind of like we have unfinished business and we're bound, because of where we died, because we died inside a Wraith. Maybe creates this backdoor situation that Charlie's not even aware of, because anyone else that's really died connected to these situations have died outside of the Wraith, whether it's the people he took to Christmas Land like Joe to get eaten. But like I said, Millie killed her mom in the Wraith. Craig died in the Wraith, so that brings up a lot of interesting things. But he's like, the fact is, your mom promised she's going to find you. She is just kind of believing. I was like, holy crap, that's so interesting. And obviously for Wayne, he doesn't realize who that is. So that's kind of fascinating in its own right. Then there's whole situation with Maggie tracking down John and playing coy, because obviously he thinks like, oh, this is another strong creative who found me. we got a lot of interesting insights into strong creators in general. Especially, we got insight into John's gift, and I thought it was kind of fascinating. Basically, how the hourglass works, and it also, because like the thing I kept wondering, it's kind of like, I kept comparing, like, because last episode I compared it to the Death Note, like how you can like manipulate people to do stuff for you, and my biggest question was like, it sound, because I knew like, oh, he makes them kill themselves, but I was wondering, is that kind of like, say, like in a sense of a Death Note, you write their name down at the, like, regardless of what they do, they're always going to die at the end of it, regardless, because you wrote their name in the Death Note. I was wondering if it was a similar thing in that vein, like, oh, the moment I get control of you, you're going to die anyway. But the way he set it up last episode to be like, oh, you need to kind of save some time for yourself, that's what I was wondering. And this episode answered that. Like, for one, he can actually turn it off. And I thought that was so fascinating because he used it on Bartender and he flips. I was like, that's fascinating. So it's not like it has to run its course. You can keep going. For him, he talks about the fact is, yeah, fate and destiny kind of runs its course on certain levels, but up to a certain point, the rest of the points, it's 100% me. And I was like, that's so fascinating. And also, like, the fact is, when his ear is bleeding, yes, it is his price, but he talks about the fact is his price is his memory, because for him, he's like, my first 20 years, they're a blur, but like all these last 20, they're crystal clear, because much like Charlie, he found a way to mitigate his price. And I thought that was so fascinating, because he talks about it. He's like, basically, because when he says, can I have a moment of your time, he hit by killing people, by taking their time, that's paying the price for like him keeping his memories and stuff like that. I thought that was so fascinating. And it's interesting too, because like the whole thing, the biggest question he had was like, oh, can John find immortality? That's what he wanted Maggie to ask her tiles. And I was like, oh, okay. And the moment that conversation came up, I was like, that's what you're getting. Because I kept being like, what is Charlie giving you? Why would you work with Charlie? Like, I was trying to understand, and now it makes sense. Because Charlie, he's extremely old, and he's maintained his life this entire time. And he's also kept all those kids young too. So it's like, it's understandable, like, oh, he has the secret to immortality to a certain extent. But it was also interesting, I keep using that word a lot, I'm sorry, because I use a lot of words a lot, sorry. God, that sounds so stupid to say. Sorry. The fact of the matter is, he thought like, okay, killing people, taking their time, is keeping my memory intact. He thought that maybe he could stack people's time. So all the time, like, almost like, oh, it's almost interesting because like something else kind of works. I'm blanking on it. I feel like there's something else, like some other series that kind of does that, where you take someone else. Oh, freaking, because they were a recent conversation. Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. They kind of work in a similar vein, because Weeping Angels kill you by like whatever amount of life that you were going to live. Say your natural born life was going to be 75 extra years. They take that 75 years and that feeds them. They feed off whatever time you had left. They kind of kill you in a effed up, peaceful way. They basically send you to a completely different time for you to grow old and die. So like, say you live in 2020, like the fact of the matter is they'll send you back to 1921, so you'll die of your natural born life. But all that time, that life you would have lived, they take it. So I was one, like, so he was kind of almost doing like, oh, anytime I'm killing someone, I'm stacking life. It's a Mario game. I'm getting extra lives every time, that was just, I was like, dude, that's crazy. Because, the tile said that he would never find immortality. It makes you wonder, like, I mean, the tiles are, like, as Maggie said, the tiles are never wrong. So it makes you wonder, like, in what way was it saying no? Was it saying no simply because, like, oh, you stacking time doesn't work like that? Two, Charlie was never going to share his secret because his circumstances only work for him and the kids. It doesn't work for anyone else outside of that, maybe, Or was it foreshadowing the fact is that Maggie was going to... Because it doesn't seem like he's dead. I think Maggie just broke his... I guess that's his escape. I guess that... it seems like the hourglass itself is his knife, but obviously it's like... makes you wonder, would he be able to get another one, or would it have to be that specific, maybe in his case, that kind of acts as both his knife and his escape. Whatever the case may be, it's broken, so no doing his powers anymore. And as we know, like, breaking that for someone messes him up, because we saw it with Vic. Well, obviously we've seen it multiple times with Charlie, like obviously the Wraith getting messed him up, but also like last season when he threw Vic's bike into her inscape, like she got a splitting headache and she kind of passed out for a little bit. It's because like, or no, she didn't pass out. She just like it just the pain like was over like extremely high and everything. So we see what that can just do to someone, because basically you're destroying like a part of their conscious, it's their mind, it's part of who they are. But that's not the only fascinating thing that came about because of this whole John thing. He basically taught Maggie how to mitigate the effects of, her tiles. Like, he says that basically there are two ways you can go about it. One, it's either the situation of either hurting yourself or hurting someone else. So I was like, okay, so it's a balancing thing. Like, basically, there's a price to pay. Someone else has to pay the price. And that's either you through your pain or through someone else's pain. And for him, like, he initially did it through his own pain. But then, like, I think by killing other people, I guess that's his way of, because I think when he takes control of someone, I think maybe it kind of, like, it makes that, because he makes it seem like the second option is a lot more viable. For one, it's a lot less, self-destructive in a sense. I'm sure self-destructive to your own soul, like you basically putting that pain on someone else. Once again, I recently made a comparison to this too. It reminds me of the main antagonist of season 2 of Cloak and Dagger. He kind of had a similar thing where he would pass on like his pain to other people because it made him better. Like it seems like that. But like I said, the whole thing also got me thinking kind of almost like an equivalent exchange type of situation, almost like a Full Metal Alchemist thing. It's not a 1-to-1, but it just kind of made me think of that, of like there has to be this equivalent exchange. So like the price you pay, it has to be alleviated. Either you pay the price or someone else does. I just thought that was, fascinating. And Maggie is now able to kind of do that. Like, she's able to she's, going to be doing that from now on, because it made it so burning herself, like that pain, you feel all that pain, you use it, and then, like, you take all that pain and then you use your gift and you don't have to pay the price. She doesn't have her seizures. There was also another fascinating conversation between them where John talked about the fact is that, they found, like, it's not easy to have, like, a normal relationship, because, like, the fact of the matter is our gifts, they're so interesting and they draw people in, but at the same time, the thing that draws people towards us also scare the shit out of them, because it's like, it's something unnatural. They start not wanting you to use your gift and stuff like that. So it's like, so it's almost a thing of like strong creatives can only be with other strong creatives, because normal people will never fully understand, because they want to stifle your gift or whatever. And sadly, we kind of see that at the end, because Tabitha's like, whoa, I can't watch you like burn yourself. But for Maggie, it's like, I literally gave up my Scrabble bag for you. The fact of the matter is, because I would never ask you to give up being a cop or whatever, because like, despite how dangerous it is, because I know it's something you care about. It's like, she's like, I've been feeling kind of like something's been missing this entire time. And for her, it's like, I've got my bag, and it's like, I'm never going to stop using it. The fact is that, for anyone ever again, can you accept me? Can you accept that? And Tabitha doesn't really give us an answer in the episode. But in my mind, I find that interesting too, because it's like, because Maggie has an addictive personality. We already know that. I mean, not personality, but it's like addiction runs in, like it's there. Like she has her vices, and her bag has become another vice. Like it's just a thing. It's kind of like, because it's even what Vic said, like, what was it, like 2 episodes ago? It was the whole thing of like, because she's like, oh yeah, I chose Tabitha. He's like, did you choose Tabitha over your bag? Because you're here with your bag instead of being with Tabitha. It's like, it's that thing, you get that rush, you're just kind of like, it's that itch, you're just kind of like, no, I'm fine. And I think we'll kind of see that kind of being a thing where Maggie kind of unravels herself, because I think maybe you can almost look at it as, because of their price, it keeps them in check. Without your price, even the best person might start slipping down that dark road. So that could be where Maggie's story ends up going, like, because your price kind of keeps you in check so you don't end up abusing your ability, and I think that could be something we see, her do. And obviously, like John had brought up, it's going to be testing her and Tabitha's relationship, because now she's going to be looking like, oh, John was right. Like, now Tabitha's telling me not to use my gift. She's trying to stifle my ability because it scares her. This is mine. Like, this is a part of me she's making me deny. Like, so we'll see. Other than that, there's also the situation with Vic and her mom. Her mom's looking through the drawings and stuff like that. And for her, it was a thing of like, she kind of explains like why she kind of has always been the way she has with towards Vic. Is that for her, she always felt like Vic didn't need her. It's like you were kind of always like, you never really felt like you needed me, kind of almost like you're very like independent. So she's like, I felt like you just never needed me. But she was like, but Vic's like, I do. And it's like, so tell me, how does this gift of yours work? And she's like, even I don't 100% understand it. And so she's saying like, that Lou and Chris could also work on the bike, which the bike pieces get brought there, and they're like, the bike's in a million pieces. And obviously like, she's, stressed because it's like, oh my God, like what if we can't put it back together? But Lou's like, I'm the best mechanic. I will put this bike back together. You will ride it and you will find Wayne. Just trust it. We'll get this done, And then there's a situation with Wayne, because him and Charlie end up stopping in like a junkyard. I was like, oh, are you going to meet up with Bing here? Is that what's going to happen here? And that's what I was wondering. I was like, but it seemed like you didn't seem like you had any intention of tracking down Bing, but it was just kind of a place to stop, maybe. Whatever the case may be, he goes away for a little bit, and then like the car rolls down and lets a butterfly in, which I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Why would it do that? But he's like, oh, I'm going to call you Sonny. And then Wayne proceeded to rip the butterfly pieces. I was like, oh, that's... But then he's, cause at one point we also saw like him spitting out his tooth, and it was like, it's already starting to happen for Wayne. But then later on, it's like, lo and behold, who shows up? Bing. I was like, oh, hey. And Bing's got the gas mask on. I was like, what? Where's this about to go? And he knocked Charlie. I was like, what? I was like, oh, I guess he's no longer under Charlie's spell. It's like, oh, you were going to leave me. Not you were going to leave me. You did leave me, because it's almost a thing of like, you chose that kid over me. I've always been good. That kid's been naughty, and you took him. Now, part of me wonders, is this Bing going to be getting revenge against, is this going to be him getting revenge against Wayne, because it's like, oh, because of you and because of what your mom did, I'm going to get revenge against you. But also, now Bing might see Charlie for who he really is. It's like, oh, you were never going to take me to Christmas Land, you liar. You're on the naughty list type of thing. I was like, that's antagonist versus antagonist now. I didn't see that coming. Like, I would have, because I would have thought Bing would have been like, oh yeah, Mr. Manx, I'm here. Like, I thought he would have been like, he was very much like that last season. But for him to be like, oh, coming after Charlie like this, I thought was kind of fascinating. Like, now how is that going to play out? Because it seemed like he disables the car, so the car's not going to be able to come after him. So I was like, oh snap, like what's this situation going to turn into? Craig pops up to Wayne one last time, is like, call your mom now. And he calls, and obviously like they talk, and they're trying to figure out where he is. So obviously they need to hurry up and find fix the bike so they can get to Wayne, because that situation's about to hit. I'm like, where the hell is that going to go? That side of things. So like I said, a lot of really interesting things. I'm curious to ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good